Welcome to Turnstyle's ultimate Shin Megami Tensei 5 Beginner's Guide. I'm Tom. I'll be your guide today through the demon-infested world of Da'at. This game is absolutely incredible. So while it might be intimidating to a newcomer, don't let that scare you off. It's genius with its mechanics and balance and progression that you feel rewarded the more you master it. So I'm glad you came. I'm glad you're here. And what follows is a guide with a wide breadth. Look at the timeline, I cover a lot here. Much of what is in here encompasses like early game scenarios and fundamentals of SMT. So it will be light on spoilers, and it will only get into basic mechanical understandings and tips, so we can get through the first area and its boss. Also, I've divided up the video in chapters for easy navigation, and I've included timestamps for your viewing pleasure. By all means, pop into sections where you need help, pop out. For instance, even if you're new to SMT, you might be coming over from Persona, so some of this might be new and some of it might not be new. This guide is written for someone completely new to Mega 10. Hopefully you'll leave this video with the confidence to confront the majesty that is this game's 70-hour campaign. Shin Megami Tensei has a notorious reputation for ruthless difficulty, and I do think this is slightly overblown, but the series is fantastic though, so it's worth the investment to learn its mechanics and master strategy for every conflict that comes your way. I won't sugarcoat things and say, wow, this game's actually really fucking easy, guys, but there's so many things that 5 does specifically to simplify and streamline the series' notorious challenge that should make any newcomer more comfortable. This game is cram-packed with mechanics to help out the player, but they force you to learn them and utilize all of them. And so that's where this video comes in, to give you a comprehensive overview of every major mechanic you will need to topple demons the world over. First in-game decision you have to make is difficulty. This guide is tailored around normal difficulty. I'd say, watch this guide first. Go to an easier difficulty as a last resort, but try to implement the tips I have in the guide first in normal to see if you can't overcome the challenge of early game. Also, I want to lessen your stress right off the bat. Early on in this game, you're going to get decisions to pick dialogue options. This does not matter that much in the grand scheme of things. This is not Persona where every decision is fundamentally important to what ending you get. 5 simplifies this almost to a sickeningly sweet degree. There is only one major decision at the end of the game that actually changes your path. Don't stress too much about these, answer them honestly, have fun with it. And then you'll awaken in the Netherworld as a newly formed Nahobina. There's a lot to take in right off the bat. You open up a stats screen and everything's there. There are many familiar elements and then not so familiar ones, so let's go through them all. We have stats like HP and MP, experience bar. This should all ring a bell. What's important to keep an eye on, especially early game, is while you can often get spells to refill your HP bar, like healing spells, your MP bar is likely to stay depleted, save for an item or resting at a healing site. There's not going to be all these spells that refill your MP in this game. So try to manage this bar and realize when you get low that it might be time to stop exploring and find a resting place. Now, below that are resistance icons. There are many elemental damages in SMT: physical, fire, ice, electric, force, light, and dark. Under the resistance icons is a bar, which denotes if there are any status ailment resistances or weaknesses like poison, sleep, etc. If there's a line under an element, that means it will do neutral damage to you. An exclamation point means you have a weakness to that element and should be something to avoid. A shield icon that is half colored in means you resist that element but do not completely nullify or block it like a fully colored in shield icon would mean. The last 2 resistance icons are a shield with an arrow, which means you repel the attack and hurt the attacker with their own attack, or the drain icon, which means you are healed by being hit with an attack of that element. But you won't see these until much later in the game. This is the spot to look for any and all enemies and allies to check their effectiveness in certain scenarios. Below that section is your stats, being strength, vitality, magic, agility, and luck. Strength has always been a good stat in SMT, affecting the damage of normal and physical attacks. Magic affects the damage dealt by magic spells and increase your maximum MP amount. Vitality affects your max HP and physical defense. Agility is both an accuracy stat and an evasion stat. The rate you hit an enemy and dodge an enemy is based on agility. There's a lot of little things agility does, like determine how likely you are to successfully run from a battle, and then luck, which affects chance-based outcomes like inflicting ailments, critical hits, and item drops. Out of these stats, no matter the build, I think about prioritizing agility. This is coming from an SMT guy. Agility's always been important. I think it's a little bit less so in SMT5, but if you let your agility stat lag behind, you'll find yourself missing enemies with higher agility stats than you. Missing sucks big time in this game, and we'll cover that later as to why. But every time you level up, you get this opportunity to invest a skill point into a single stat. If this is your first time, maybe agility is a good thing to ensure is always high. Second priority outside of agility would depend on the way you prefer to output damage. If you want to do a strength build with mostly physical attacks, then invest in strength. If you want to deal mostly elemental damage, then go magic. If you want to be an iconoclastic ghoul and cast all sorts of ailments, then I guess luck would be for you. This would not be a beginner-friendly strategy as many bosses resist all status ailments, but anyway, experiment early on, and if you like magic or you like strength, eventually I want you to commit. What you don't want to be in SMT is a jack of all trades, master of none. A balanced build is usually much harder than picking something to master. Your main character won't deal enough damage late game if you just kind of broadly and evenly spread your stat. Vitality is also important, but from my experience, your avatar will likely have a healthy HP bar naturally compared to the rest of your demons without even investing extra points into it. Above all else, agility is a safe stat to invest in early on if you still aren't sure. If you want me to decide for you, strength builds are SMT staples and should get you through the game just fine. On the right side of the screen is skill potential. I will get into how to raise these potentials later on, but for now, the number and sign below each element show how much MP each respective element will cost compared to its standard rate. We also have a few new icons. Next to Dark is Almighty, a spell type that always does neutral damage. Then ailment spells like Poison or Sleep. Healing spells are next, and finally, buff and debuff and other support spells. A plus potential under one of these types will lower MP cost for a respective element, while a negative potential will raise the cost. It also will signify if a certain demon is stronger or weaker using certain spell types. It's almost like same type attack bonus in Pokemon. It's always a good idea to match a demon with potentials. Then you have the skill list, the actual moves you or your demon have. You can only have as many moves as slots available, and so these grayed out slots you will need to unlock over time. Starting off, you and your demons will only have 4 possible move slots. Below your normal skills is your Magatsui skills. A mechanic we'll break down more later, but these are special moves that do not take up a turn, but can only be used when your Magatsui bar is maxed out. Last is the list of your miracles that affect battle or combat. Miracles will be addressed in its own section later on, but they're usually passive abilities. That is the stat screen, something you want to be literate in as it will provide a ton of helpful information, especially for opposing demons and how best to attack them. This next section will be tackling the behemoth that is SMT5's battle system, so strap in, because transitioning these numbers and elements into practical battle strategy is essential to success in SMT5. You cannot power your way through this game without paying attention to stats, weaknesses, and Magatsui. This is why the game starts you with an electric affinity spell like Zio against the Damon Demon here, who is conveniently weak to Zio. While it forces you to use your normal attack first, which is physical, you'll see it doesn't do very much damage compared to when you use the super effective move, Zio against the Damon. Another early game enemy, Slime, is weak to almost every element, and so this game early on is trying to prove to you how crucial super effective moves, and more specifically, press turns are, and these is an early lesson that are not just an advantage, but required for success in SMT5. You only have as many turns as demons in battle, with a max of 4 demons, 4 turns. Each time you attack an enemy weakness or land a critical hit, you proc a press turn, and your turn counter will start to flash, effectively giving you an extra turn, with the possibility of doubling your total turn count. Being able to go twice in one turn is obviously a huge boon, and your goal should be dispatching the enemy as fast as humanly possible. because they too can take advantage of weaknesses and proc their own press turns. Go for the weaknesses on that first turn. Get the whole light show going up there. And in that set of second press turns, you can either go for the kill or set up for enemy phase. As long as at least one of your turn counters is flashing, you can max out at 8 turns, by the way. You don't need to do 4 weaknesses in a row. As long as every other attack is proccing a press turn, you can get the full 8. This means that attacking a weakness on your first turn allows you in the following turn to do whatever you want without losing an extra turn. Strike a weakness or crit at least every other turn and you're good to go. An easy way to diagnose an enemy weakness is the spyglass item you can buy from Cadaver's Hollow. Or you can experiment while safely accruing press turns with your Magatsuki critical skill. Shuffling your party order can be necessary to optimizing press turn proccage. Is that a word, proccage? As you continue to battle, your Magatsuki gauge will fill up. When it finally maxes out, your starting Magatsuki skill will be available to select. You start with a skill that ensures critical hits with your whole party, essentially assuring that as long as you attack every turn and the demon you're fighting doesn't block the element you use, you will crit and proc a press turn, even if you don't find the weakness. This is super useful, especially in scenarios where you either don't know the weakness or you don't have a weakness at hand, but still want to double your turn count and do a ton of damage while you're at it. However, the drawbacks are huge if you get these wrong. Missing an attack will cost you 2 of your turns, and hitting an enemy with infinity blocks will also screw up your turn count. Therefore, resistance knowledge and your agility stat are key, as you lose turns fast and subsequently game over even faster. But remember, your enemy can also lose turns this way, so bringing a demon that blocks their particular skills can eliminate extended offensive by your opponent, even if their own Magatsuki is in effect. That's right, opposing demons can use a turn to max out their Magatsuki bar, and you know the next turn they will be landing crit after crit after crit. Ensuring their death before that turn, switching in demons to block their moves and end that turn early, or buffing debuffing to survive the onslaught are a must on enemy Magatsuki turns. This is the easiest way to game over if you aren't prepared. The ways in which to fill your own Magatsuki multiplies as you unlock new abilities, but you can also build it by collecting red orbs outside of battle, and your bar is stored between each battle. So if a particular fight is giving you trouble, try to fill up that bar before trying again and see where that gets you. Turn 1 you can proc the Magatsuki ability, and then your bar will drain back to 0. It needs to be filled up again. So strike when the time is right. There's a lot to this mechanic, but do not ignore it. It is incredibly strong when used effectively, and it's really easy to fill the bar back up. There are also ways of preserving turns while not on the offensive, namely demon switching and utilizing the pass option. If your current party is ill-equipped to face a certain enemy, switch them out. It only takes a half turn, which means you still have your full turn allotment, and you can likely get attacks in with your new lineup. You are incentivized to switch demons in and out, whether strategically or for basic survival. Passing can also be a useful option, as you maybe want a specific demon to go an extra couple times even when you can't press turn with the rest of the party. Passing till you get to the demon in mind will only cost half a turn each time you use it. What might also solve a problem that requires switching and passing is being thoughtful about your demon order. SMT5 allows you to rearrange your party's turn order. In older games, agility handled what demon went first in your party, but now it's been simplified. Turn order is just party organization, which is extremely flexible. Before a battle, think about what order you want your demons in. You do not need to have your avatar in position 1, and sometimes it's advantageous to organize a party to more efficiently proc press turns and buff every turn by having the avatar somewhere else. This is such an easy thing not many take advantage of or realize they can do, and it might be the easy trick to overcoming a tough area. Now, having stacks of press turns is vital to efficient buffing and debuffing as well. These moves don't hit, and so can't activate press turns. Unlike other JRPGs though, support skills are essential to SMT. SMT is all about that buff and debuff. However, SMT5 has nerfed these spells big time, so you have to be much smarter in how you build your party. Early in the game, you will get a buff debuff spells that are single target 3 turn effects, while full party spells are saved for mid to late game. Now, these spells can be confusing, so time for a little vocab study session for SMT support skills, as getting used to these names will make things easier. Each of the common support skills has a first root: Taru, Raku, Suku, and De. Taru is related to attack power. Raku is related to defense. Suku is related to agility, and De is a negation skill. The last root of the spells indicates if it is a buff spell for your party, being Kaja, or debuff spell for the opposing party, being Nda. SMT5 does not differentiate magic attack and magic defense in its battle system, unlike prior games. Buffing attack and defense buffs both physical and magic attacks, and both physical and magic defense. Lowering a boss's accuracy and evasion with Sukunda spell is always a reliable strategy, and the single target nerf won't make too much of a difference here. Truly, all these spells are good, but in early game, due to the single target nature, Nda spells are especially strong, as you are more likely to find the single, really tough enemy needing these spells to weaken their stats, while single target buffs are more case sensitive outside of the ones targeting the Nahabino. Obviously you want to prioritize keeping the Nahabino alive, and there are other support skills outside of these specific ones, physical and magical reflect spells, or skills that double the user's strength next turn like charge and concentrate. You won't see too many of these in early game, but they can be really useful when they come up. You can also spend turns using ailment moves that will just break your opponent. Poisoning damages a demon after every turn. Mirage confuses the demon's target and lowers accuracy. Charming will turn a demon against its allies by attacking them, or healing you. Confusion is random. The demon can attack a random enemy or ally or do nothing at all with confusion. Sleep puts a demon to sleep for a few turns until it self-heals or is attacked. And finally, Seal prevents a demon from using skills, period. These skills are really useful, but missing with them is really common. If a demon isn't explicitly weak to it, you're likely gonna miss. But SMT knows this, and so you don't lose an extra turn for a miss while using an ailment move, which means you can more freely retry until you infect your opponent without losing all your press turns. I love all these ailments, especially Seal, but often bosses resist them, meaning it's even less likely to land a hit, or they nullify them entirely. As for when those horrible times happen and your demons get infected, you're going to need to use healing spells like Patra or Mepatra to rid them quickly. The inverse of ailing someone is healing someone, and SMT5 has a ton of healing spells. Time for more vocab. There are three major categories of healing spells in SMT. The first one you're going to counter is Dia. And for Dia, if you attach a me prefix to the front of it, it becomes a full party healing spell, instead of just a single target healing spell. However, these spells do not fully restore the health of the target. That's when the suffix Rahan comes into play. If a healing spell has Rahan at the end of it, then we know it fully restores the ally's HP. So Medio Rahan is the highest level healing spell you can get because it fully heals your entire party. And I mentioned before, Patra and Mepatra. Patra is for healing ailments, and attaching the me prefix to it means that it heals the ailments for the entire party. The last type of generic healing spell in SMT are Recarm spells, which revive allies from death. Recarm spells revive allies to half of their HP, while Samaricarm revives allies to their full HP. Outside of these healing spells, a lot of demons will get their own unique healing spells with their own unique effects. These are the main ones you'll find on many demons throughout the game. If all else fails, try to run, which is not always guaranteed, but it will tell you, the game will tell you how likely a successful escape will be when you move your cursor over the option. You can also use a support skill like Trefuri, or an item like the Smoke Ball to automatically run with no dice roll involved. If you don't end up running, and you actually defeat your opponent, you will gain money, item drops, and experience points. EXP is scaled based on your level relative to the demons you're fighting. If the demon you fought is lower level than you, then you won't get much experience. But if you are under-leveled, you'll be showered in experience galore. The game is incentivizing you to take on tough challenges. The party of demons active when the battle ends will receive more experience than those demons still in the garrison, while fallen demons don't gain any experience. Getting your preferred demons in battle before the final blow, or reviving fallen allies with items or recarm spells, is a good idea if you don't want to waste experience points on that demon. Money, on the other hand, is a scarce resource in SMT5, especially in early game, as you will often be spending it to heal your demons at leyline points, or the demon compendium. But if you can scrounge up enough Maka to spend at Cadaver's Hollow, there's a wealth of amazing items at your disposal. Yes, you can also get great items through random drop rates, but you can control what items you buy and not rely on RNG. Using items in battle is highly recommended, which is not always the case in JRPGs. Using them can be the difference between winning and losing. Let's deep dive in a bunch of useful items you can buy in early game that are more practical and not some kind of automatic waste of a turn. Okay, here we are in Cadaver's Hollow with our good old buddy Gustav, and I just wanted to go over, Let's Play Tom here, kind of what items we have available to us. This is right after beating the first boss, so it's mostly the same, but I will pick this because, yeah, we'll go through the items, but you can also buy essences in the shop. You can't until this point, I believe. Buying essences is always a nice thing if you need a Bufu spell or, a Zio spell, something easy to get on your demons. Otherwise, though, items, first 3 healing items, 1 for HP, 1 for status elements, 1 for revival. Really useful, but you'll be picking up a lot of these naturally, so I actually don't end up usually buying a lot of these. If any of them, I buy the status ailment items, but they're so cheap. If you buy a few, you buy a few. But you can see revival beads, I've picked up 9. I haven't bought a single one, so not too much of a pain to go in and buy these. The shards are useful, especially if you need a certain element to continue a press turn kind of a combo you got going, or where I find them useful are for Mitamas. And you only have a certain amount of turns to get a weakness out. Maybe you don't have one at that moment. Having at least one of each of these can be useful. Like I'll grab a dark shard. That kind of thing can be useful with the elemental shards. But the big one I wanted to bring up here is the dampeners, which are really overpowered items in this game. So as we'll learn, and we'll talk about this later, when enemies charge their Magatsui, the next turn they're gonna let out an attack, and that attack's not always, but most of the time is gonna be predictable or the same every time. Like the first boss, his Magatsui move is always Toxic Breath. It's a dark move. Buying a dampener can just eliminate and delete their turn the next turn and all that damage they could accrue by using it the turn before. It fully negates any spell of that type from doing any damage for 1 turn to all your allies. And then finally, as I mentioned before, and I'll mention again, you want to keep spyglasses up in your inventory, at least 5, so when you run into Mitamas, you run into a tough fight, you can just boop, download their info right away. Yeah, other than that's pretty much it, especially for early on. You'll obviously gain more items as you go, but for this early area, you really just want to prioritize getting dampeners when you need them and keeping those spyglasses up. Now, you can also sell items here, and these items you can sell are unique selling items, right? You don't have to use them, you don't have to think about them for anything else. You usually pick them up either from the ground or from vending machines. And really, as you pick them up, you sell them all and make your money. It's really, really easy to build money in this game if you're hitting every vending machine as you see them. The other menu option in Cadaver's Hollow is Me-Man Rewards. This is just a menu of telling you benchmark reward gifts for collecting X amount of Me-Mans for Gustav. So if there's something coming up you really want, maybe push and explore a bit more to grab a Makami's Essence at 40 Me-Mans. Really simple stuff. But another reason to come here, because you're going to get rewards as you collect and as you explore. That's it for our buddy Gustav here. Back in the video. Outside of battle is where some of the most dramatic changes come in SMP5. The maps have been expanded, and so has your movement. This is a seismic shift in exploration progression, as these sprawling maps feel like urban jungle gyms, both dense and vast, with so many things to discover within each area. Plus, you get a jump button! So you'll want to uncover more of the map, which requires you to take out these abscesses that pollute the world. You only need to do the fight that triggers when you actually make contact with the abscess, so dodging the wave of demons is totally fine. Usually these are like a tough, kind of mid-boss level feeling battles, but they do clear your map to free up exploration as well as reward you with new miracles. Once you take out abscesses, you'll be able to more freely explore Da'at, and you'll find a lot of collectibles. Smallest of which are ones your little demon buddy, you get early on, Amanazako, will find for you on the ground. Follow her to the item spot, collect it. You'll get a lot of normal battle items, or sometimes she'll mess up and trap you into a battle with demons or Mitamas. This is actually a really good thing because Mitamas give massive rewards, but they only have one weakness and run away after one turn. That weakness is always randomized though, so you'll never know off the bat what the weakness will be. You need to keep an ample supply of spyglass stock, so you're always ready to reap the Mitama reward. Another great item to collect are vending machine items, which will drop items that you can sell for a pretty penny. Sometimes you'll find SMT5's equivalent of a treasure chest, big gold, what they call boxes, littered throughout the area. Often nice rewards for clever exploration and platforming challenges. These often contain especially good trinkets, like demon essences. The last two major collectibles have to do with glory, a currency specifically used for unlocking miracles in the Cathedral of Shadows. Smaller, white spheres give you a boatload of glory at once, really worth going out of your way for. And finding many of these adorable little mimans scattered about will reward you with a bit of glory and amusing flavor text. SMT5's level design is always rewarding you with fun collectibles, and NPCs who often give you free items, have helpful tips, or give you crucial side quests. I don't want to spoil a lot of the side quests, they're fun to experience on your own, but do all the side quests that you can. They are all fun, and the XP and item rewards are essential to keeping up with enemy levels. You have to do it. Running around also just feels great in SMT, as the Nahobino is quite fast and can easily dodge most enemies in the overworld. Because of this, SMT5 has done away with random encounters. While I encourage you to fight enemies to learn weaknesses, recruit demons, gain experience, if you're in a tight spot, do your best to run around them. Or even better, use fast travel. Getting surprised by an enemy during exploration can lead to them going first. Depending on the situation, they might give you an out if you can give them a bunch of money. Enemies going first is an easy way to die. I'd rather give them 500 Maka than learn the hard way of how an early enemy phase can ruin your day. You can quickly teleport from any leyline point to any other one that you have discovered. Also, once you reach Tokyo Tower and beat the first boss, you will get a key item that will let you teleport back to your most recent leyline point with a push of a button anywhere. Now let's talk about these leyline points. They're crucial respites, which reminds me, you need to be saving a lot in this game. There's no autosaving in SMT5, and you can't save anywhere you want. You have to save at these designated points, so do so, especially before major encounters. You're losing nothing by doing this. Aogami will even warn you to pump the brakes and go back and save before any serious encounter comes up. The game wants you to save before fights. And maybe your first attempt will be more like a scouting mission. You figure out some info on a boss, a weakness or two, get your ass kicked, and rethink your strategy now with that new information. You'll notice in the top left, the moon phase will be constantly changing. Moon phases cycle through 8 total phases. New moon to full moon, single integer increments throughout. As a moon gets fuller, weirder things are more likely to happen. Rare item drops from enemies, or demon fusion malfunctions that might reward you with a stronger demon than expected. Or a dud. This is another reason to keep saving, by the way, I'm going to bring it up again. Saving before demon fusions might save you from a dud fusion. New moon phase though, the empty moon, will make most demon negotiations impossible, as many demons refuse to talk to you in a new moon. This is also true for some demons during full moon as well. However, certain demons are more accepting of negotiation if a moon phase they prefer is active. Certainly something to consider if you're struggling convincing a certain demon to join your ranks. It's a subtle mechanic that injects a bit of randomness into the world of SMT5, and I don't even think we know everything the phase affects quite yet, but I kinda like that about it. With that last section, I did introduce a lot of new mechanics that overlap with overworld exploration. Since we were talking about demon negotiation, I think it's important to go over how this mechanic works in SMT5. I love negotiation in SMT5. It has been streamlined to make it pretty much painless. Out of the gate, you can choose to talk to any demon as you encounter them in the wild. Talking to a demon will trigger a negotiation sequence. If you fail, be warned that you can risk your entire party's turn if you do poorly. I really recommend being safe prior to starting a negotiation, especially early on. Passing turns to heal your party in the case of a turn end, or spending time to rid the enemy party of all the other demons you aren't interested in. You don't need to do this, however, and sometimes you might want to keep a couple demons of the same race alive to give yourself a couple of cracks at recruitment in the battle. But successfully recruiting demons has so many factors affecting it. Like I mentioned, moon phase can help or hurt your chances with certain demons. There are also different miracles you can earn that tip the scales in your favor later in the game. Your relative level is also an important factor because demons above your level, even if they want to join, will refuse until you are at least equal to their level. Also, be sure there is a room in your garrison for another demon, as successful negotiation will be halted due to a lack of space for the demon themselves. Demons will first always ask some kind of weird question that you need to answer to their liking. Being nice isn't always the right answer, and some demons like being talked down to, but this is the first major hurdle to negotiation. There is some randomness to this phase, but it will nevertheless be a fun interaction to experience regardless. Once you answer enough questions to the liking, you will enter gift phase. The major change in SMT5's negotiation is how demons react to gifts. If you successfully pass the first phase of questioning, and a demon responds well to your answer, you might enter gift phase, where you need to give them items and maca. In prior SMT games, the demon is really liable to accept gifts and then run away. However, in SMT5, if you want to guarantee a demon recruitment in gift phase, just always give the demon what they want in this phase. Unless you're low leveled or out of room, they're gonna join your party. While this may be an expensive decision, if you need a certain demon, this is the safe way to do it. However, that doesn't mean you can't haggle. Very often you can refuse demon requests and still end up with them joining your party. But that is when risk gets involved. Also, don't worry too much about convincing a demon that you aren't strong enough for or don't have room for. When you alleviate those issues, you can immediately encounter said demon again and they will remember your previous exchange and join you with no renegotiation necessary. Do not get complacent with a party of old faithfuls, as new demons are usually much stronger and have higher overall potential as you progress through the game than your old ones. If you talk to a demon that you also own, they will immediately end the battle with no further action, while also possibly healing or rewarding you in some fashion on their way out. Getting new demons is absolutely necessary. Do not be shy about fusions. Fuse, and fuse a lot, as soon as you can. This isn't Pokemon. You need to always be reinventing your party as new demons become available. Demons will hit their ceiling pretty quickly after they've learned every available move in their learn set. As demons level up and stats increase, along the way they will learn new moves. It is recommended to train a demon at least until they learn every move you want them to. Now you can train for a few more levels after where they might give you their essence, but not too much farther. This is because their stats will not scale with the rest of the game. And don't worry, demons can pass down abilities to future fusions. A demon's utility might be a powerful crutch for you, sure, but its stats will inevitably fall behind. Passing down traits will allow for flexible fusion builds that can fulfill similar roles to the demon you have come to rely on. So I want to talk about fusions in greater detail. It is one of the more intimidating aspects of SMT because of the exponentially varied options at your fingertips. I will say that even though SMT5 confronts you with a ton of options and information, it makes fusion so much easier and streamlined to have all the information at hand at once. So you'll see 4 fusion options when you enter the Cathedral Shadows when you start fusing. Dyad fusions lets you start with the ingredients, specifying which demon from your garrison you want to fuse. It's a low cost and targeted fusion. You have a demon that's lagging behind that you need to fuse out already. Dyad fusion is useful for when looking for how to get rid of a specific demon in your party. Reverse fusion will instead start with the result demon, where you are less interested in the specific ingredient demons make up the fusion, but more concerned with the result demon on the other side of the fusion. This will list all possible results possible with your garrison of demons. You can only fuse into a demon that matches your avatar level though, so you might need to grind a bit to get the demon you really want out of a fusion. Targeting results is a great way to get a bird's eye view of what fusions are possible for you for little cost. Reverse compendium fusion, you're still targeting results, but the possible demons for fusion expand to any demon you've ever registered in compendium, not just ones that are currently residing in your garrison. That means any demon you have had, past, present, not future I guess, are up for fusion. But you will have to pay up a handsome fee to use a demon you don't currently have in your possession. This overwhelming list of options has historically been available on wikis, not in-game, so take advantage of how much SMT5 is willing to help you out with fusions. One massive tip to consider is how you can make compendium purchases cheaper. While a demon might be out of your price range, especially early on, it might be significantly cheaper just to go and recruit that demon, or go further back in the fusion tree. The further back you go, the cheaper the ingredient demon becomes. The fourth option are special fusions unlocked after completing certain story events or defeating certain demons in battle. These fusions require sometimes 2, but most of the time 3 demons per fusion, and result in a special demon not usually accessible in Overworld. It is often recommended to grab special fusions when you can, even going of your way to get them, because it feels good to get them, and also they have great stats and exclusive abilities. I've personally had a lot of luck with most of them in my playthroughs, but fusing a lot can also have some drawbacks. Okay, big tip at the end of all this. Be wary of fusion frenzies, a term that I completely made up, where you reach a certain level that unlocks a lot of possible new fusion options, and so you fuse all your demons away without thinking about variety. Keep in mind the idea of a well-balanced garrison, because you might replace that well-balanced garrison with a bunch of demons with the same proficiencies, weaknesses, attacks, and also you might fuse away a lot of your support moves. Variety is key. Think before you go fusion crazy. You can always search move type in your party, which at a glance can tell you if a certain element is lacking when you go to fuse. Also, it might be good before fusing one of your maxed out full moveset demons to go in and save that specific iteration of the demon in your compendium. While often more expensive to purchase later, you will immediately have all its level up moves and stats in the future. This is definitely a case by case situation, but if a certain demon is hard to justify fusion because of its whack, crazy good moveset, register it so you can save it for later, and then fuse it off. It's memory accessible if you need it in the future. While you're in the Cathedral Shadows, we might as well talk about all the other essential mechanics within. Miracles are something I've mentioned a bunch, and let's finally get into it. All that glory you've been collecting in the overworld, here's where you can spend it. Now, I'm only showing the ones you can get prior to your first boss, but I want to talk about which ones you can unlock and which ones I recommend. Okay, Let's Play Tom's back. I thought this would just be an easier way to explain it, just kind of going through it. Miracles. Again, I just beaten the first boss, so we can look at what we have available to us. You're always going to have these 4 categories though: Supremacy, Doctrine, Awakening, and Cosmos. Supremacy, for the most part, are miracles that benefit building Magatsui faster. So, out of all these, I really recommend getting Fell Swoop, which will slightly increase your gauge when inflicting weak or critical, which you're always endeavoring to do no matter what. That's kind of been your goal for every battle, so you're gonna be doing that a lot, and so this will really help build your Magatsui faster. The other ones you're kind of a little less likely to happen, so if you have to ration out your glory, Fell Swoop's the one to go. But Vengeful Opportunist increases when you're guarding, which I haven't talked about guarding yet. Okay, we're slipping in a guarding little tidbit here. Guarding reduces the damage you'll take by the enemy next turn, but you can't do anything, so you're giving up that turn to attack or set up to just guard. This can be good to preserve MP, but also guarding prevents crits. So if a Magatsui turn is coming up and you just don't have anything, you're just trying to survive, a well-placed guard might be the difference between winning and losing to get you through that turn. And if you guard while having this miracle, you'll also gain some Magatsui. And Doctrine's going to have a lot to do with fusions and essence. So things that are occurring in the Cathedral Shadows, this is going to benefit a lot of it. Art of Essences, there'll be more of these, allows you to take an additional skill to be learned from essences. You definitely want this one. Divine Amalgamation, need this one. You gotta have Divine Amalgamation. It allows you to acquire affinity resistance from essences, not just moves. This seems almost necessary, so make sure you have this one as soon as it pops up. Hand of God's not incredibly important. It's just some little bonus. It's 5 glory, so I grabbed it. The Awakening category has a lot of the you gotta haves. It's not even whoa, this will be a benefit. It's just yeah, you're gonna want to increase your demon stock. Oh, you're gonna want to increase your skill slots. That's what's gonna be in the miracle section for the most part. And yeah, you just gotta kind of bite the bullet with Awakening. I usually get everything in Awakening because, of course, why wouldn't you want a bunch of demon slots and a bunch of skill slots? Cosmos, this is how you can raise the Nahobino's potentials. We talked about potentials a bit, and demons have a certain allotted amount that they have, and you don't have any off the bat, so this is how you get them. if let's say I learn Ailment Mastery 1, and this is all about what build you want, right? Like, if you're going for a certain build, you're going to want to invest in certain potential bonuses. We look at Nahobino now. Look, the +1 under the poison, under the ailment stat is there because we invested in that. So that is Miracles in a nutshell. That's it. Back to the video. Also, we have essences, which are a new mechanic to SMT5. Whether collected while exploring, bought from Gustav, or given to you by one of your demons, essences allow you to either teach a unique move or a demon's affinities to yourself or any other demon you have. Changing affinities can be make or break, as your main character does have rough weaknesses, force and dark. Having a weakness to light or dark is kind of scary because you have a chance to being insta-killed by any light or dark attack that targets a weakness. Be careful. You might need to change that weakness up if you fight an enemy with a lot of dark spells. That's what I like about essences though. It's this wide open sandbox style mechanic that really opens up demon progression. So you can either teach a move from a demon or teach an affinity from a demon with an essence. You can't do both. But you can get some wild builds and movesets out of essences. Do not ignore them. They're really essential to building your avatar who doesn't learn any level up moves. Do not be rigid when it comes to moveset and affinities. Be open to fluidity, fitting the situation at hand. When the Nahobino is weak to a boss, it usually means certain death. And this also gives me another reason to tell you to save. If your essence remaps don't work out, you have a save ready to reset without wasting those resources. Phew, that was a lot of shit. But this is where the game just gets started. Having the basic knowledge, right, and command of these mechanics reveals how flexible SMT5 can be. There are so many tools to experiment with, and you have some wild success as you face its challenges. Now, for the practical section of this guide, if you want someone to just get you through the first boss, Hydra, with a sick build and let the momentum carry you after that, this is the section for you. We're going to put all this knowledge in practice now. Let's do this. Here's a step-by-step route for the first area, so you can breeze through Hydra. There are a few things we really want to have against Hydra. First, he's weak to ice. I'm just letting you know right now. I've done the work for you. He's weak to ice. So we want a good stable of ice users. But he does use fire moves, which a lot of demons that naturally learn ice are going to be weak to. So we got to find ways to pack your team full of demons with varying affinities, so they're not all weak to the same move. And then second, when a boss charges Magotsui, they always have a unique, super powerful move for that next turn. For Hydra, it's a dark spell. So having a way to block dark will be necessary. First of all, I've got to make sure my avatar is an ice user. And throughout the early portion of the game, I've been giving it essences with all the elemental spells at hand. So this is a really powerful option. But also, I recommend getting the Aramasa and Rakunda moves from the Awagami Type 1 essence you get by the waterfall. With my higher strength stat, an 8-hit physical move will do a lot of damage during Magotsui crit turns. Now, for ice users, if you're looking for them, there's one really strong one you can get from a certain side quest. I chose for this one the Spirit of Love route of this side quest, which you get by talking to this demon, Aspera. She wants you to kill Lian and Sid, and once you do, she will join your party. If you do go this route and you have to defeat Lian, fuse a Mandrake and Pixie together to get an Angel, which has a unique skill, Humble Blessing, which is similar in effect to Medea, which is something you'd miss out if you don't get a Lian, who can learn Medea. But more importantly, it'll be helpful in this fight because of the skill Hama, which is a strong light spell that Lian and her sidekick are weak to. It'll make this tough fight much easier. Also, Hama has a pretty high base damage value anyway, so having neutral damage Hama spell with Hydra, with that good healing spell, couldn't hurt. Having Aspera is so good because she will be several levels higher than the rest of your party and naturally knows spells like Bufu. You can also go the other way and kill Aspera, recruit Lian, but she doesn't naturally learn ice moves, so you'll need to give her an essence to get her a Bufu spell. Lian's also a good choice because she's immune to dark, which with Hydra's super powerful dark spell, we're looking for stuff like that, but I have a different strategy to more easily handle Hydra. So we're going with Aspera for this playthrough. The thing about Aspera is she's weak to fire, so we need to mix it up after this. No more fire weakness. Now, by fusing a Mandrake and an Agathion, you get Eros. a demon with a high base magic stat of 17. It won't have ice spells out of the box, so here is where you use an essence that will teach Bufu. Now for both my Angel and my Nahobino, I'm a bit concerned about the Dark type Toxic Breath move that hits all units, as Dark type moves can one-hit kill, as I said, if a demon is weak to Dark. By using the affinity you get from the Daemon essence you find by the cliff's edge outside the Daemon Nest, you can give your avatar both a fire resistance and a dark block. Now, you can do it this way, but this won't be necessary with the strategy I'm going to employ, because you can also buy Dark Dampeners in Cadaver's Hollow, which will make the whole party immune to Dark for one turn. Since you always have warning when a demon's next turn will be a Magatsuei one, just use the dampener before your turn ends. This is why I also plan on putting the Nahobino last in the party, so I never waste a press turn using an item. Later in the game you can unlock the ability for demons to use items, but for now it's just your Nahobino. I'm getting ahead of myself a bit though here. I also decided to use many of the stat boosting or level boosting items I picked up. This is a bit random, so you do not need to exactly do what I do here, and your item assortment might be different, but here are the ones I use. I use Grimoires, which raise the level for demons weaker than protagonists, Sutra, raising potential for certain elements, like here I give Aspera and Ice Sutra I found. And also, remember, a couple of battles you can max out your Magatsuei bar and enter the battle ready to blast Hydra with crits. With one weakness to fire, I'm really comfortable with the type matchup here to begin the battle, and like I said, I don't have to worry about the dark move because of the dampeners. So right off the bat, I've come in with a full Magatsuei bard, and all out attack him first turn, sprinkling in buffs and debuffs when I can. After the Hydra's first turn, he charges his Magatsuei, so I know next turn, Toxic Breath is coming out. While this second turn is mostly the same as the first, I use my final turn setting up a Dark Dampener. This completely blocks the attack and immediately ends Hydra's turn. It's very satisfying to do this. No damage. Rinse and repeat, every now and then healing with Angel. Soon, his other heads will fall, and I keep up the attack before finishing him off quickly thereafter. Preparation is key, see? And because of how the game warns you when a boss fight is coming up, there's no reason not to save and experiment with builds and loadouts that just delete boss fights. Shin Megami Tensei 5 is a big game. There are so many ways to play it, and lots of room for those playstyles. Now get on out there. Prove your mettle in that. Befriend demons and save the world from ending again. I promise you, it's not the unfair, punishing, masochistic nightmare it has been made out to be. It is a perfectly balanced, pristinely fine-tuned, mechanically robust, but streamlined role-playing game with decades of refinement behind it. It is a size that rivaled any of the biggest and best JRPGs out there. And with that, thanks for watching our ultimate SMT5 beginner's guide. It's been a pleasure serving you today, and if you could possibly spare a moment, if you enjoyed the video and found it at all helpful, why not leave a like, subscribe even, or maybe drop a comment if you think I missed anything that would be helpful. I'm sure I did. Also, it might prevent the YouTube elder gods from destroying Tokyo again if you do. And with that, hopefully you'll find your way back here the next time we have something for you.